I hope you can see my screen very soon. Thank you everyone for joining our webinar as well. And as Christina mentioned, I'm going to talk about 10-minute analytics. In particular, I'm focusing on the more efficient management of water. But before I do that, I want to be talking about this topic that is very near and dear to my heart, which is water, which is in particular also managing clean water. And once again, before diving into the actual solution of how we believe at Diehl Metering we can manage water better, I would like to highlight the problem in a few more slides. And for that, I hope I can go ahead. There we go. I hope you can see the screen. What you can see here is a screenshot of a BBC newspaper article that talks about severe drought. In this case, it's in France. And in this case, residents, consumers in towns were left without a supply of drinking water. This is, if I think about that, to me personally, quite scary. I do just take water from the tap as somewhat granted. And I do drink that every day. Just thinking about not having this available to myself anymore is, as I said, something quite scary to me. Now, I might take the approach and say, you know what, maybe this is only something that affects a small region in France. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I could have named actually many different places. May that be in Italy or may that be in Spain, to name a few other European countries, where we're facing similar drought, similar water scarcity situations. Now, I've talked about European countries, but what about outside of Europe? I'm sure that's not a problem there. Well, once again, unfortunately, that's not the case. Here we can see a National Geographic headline that reads, "Why is America running out of water?" And in this case, we can see, okay, yeah, North America is also not safe from water scarcity. This beautiful blue planet that we're living on, and that we share with so many other people, unfortunately also comes with less and less clean water resources. And that is exactly why we believe that we need to tackle this problem and that we need to just become better at managing this precious resource, not just for ourselves, but in particular also for generations to come. Now, with the problem highlighted and also shown that this is not just a European, it's also not just a North American problem. This honestly extends to all regions on this world, and almost all places will face, if they not already do, a similar issue in the foreseeable future. With that problem in mind, what can we do about this? In the introduction, you've already heard that we're here talking about managing water losses. It's exactly what we're doing. So if you think about the water life cycle, if you so will, from well or source through distribution to the end consumers, back to basically the natural reservoirs, we're here in particular focusing on the part after sourcing of water, after treatment of water, and as soon as it's entering the distribution system. Because that's where, honestly, we still, as humanity overall, have a huge room for improvement. The way that we at Diehl Metering aim to do that is in the following that you can see here. First, we aim to detect, is there a leakage situation currently happening? That may be a newly forming leakage or a pre-existing one, meaning before the system is in place. As soon as we've established that there is a loss, we will be able to quantify both the growth rates and the currently existing loss rate. And then lastly, and arguably the hardest, we also aim in supporting the localization of where is the water being lost unnecessarily. And also we do that not just on a network level, roughly, but also when you have different zones, for example, district metered areas. We'll identify which area has the highest losses, meaning where you need to start looking first. And also within these areas, we're able to tell you, okay, what are the pipes that have the highest risk of failing, meaning where you might want to start looking first. The way that this differs from traditional approaches is in the following, that when you originally you would look at your SCADA data, the data of flow of supply into your network, and you would observe the flow in particular during the nighttime period. But unfortunately, the downside to this is you're never really sure what the consumption is and what the actual loss is. Of course, you can say, you know what, I know what my regular consumption is, but then again, there might be irregular consumption, and all of a sudden, either you're doing something when you don't have to do anything, or in order to avoid that, what you do is you just wait until eventually the loss is kind of obvious. May that be a week, may that be more. But by then, you will already have lost a lot of this precious resource. Once again, we believe that we can do that better. And the best part about this, we believe that we can help utilities help you achieve that in a better way with also quite minimal time invest. And I could continue to just talk about that on PowerPoint, but I believe that that's not the purpose of the webinar today. So instead, I'm going to show you how this can look like in a real world application. And hence, I'm going to show you how the system, in this case for Oberndoerfer looks like as of today. This is a screenshot. Let me now switch to the actual live system. Just refresh that to be safe. There we are. All right, just to show you where exactly we are on this beautiful world, I'll be zooming out a little bit. So we're in Europe, in particular in Denmark, and in Denmark in the north up here. And what we can see on this map is the water distribution system of Oberndoerfer as separated into 22 different district metered areas. And what you can also tell quite intuitively is that we can see a screen that is mostly green, which is very, very good. This means that the water loss levels, albeit being present, so there is water loss happening, are in a range that is acceptable. Hence, there's really no logical reason to do anything about water losses, for example, in this part of the network. The only thing that you as an operator, that I as an operator, for example, if I enter the office in the morning, I can see is that there are two zones, one being yellow and one being red. The yellow one tells me, okay, water loss levels are slightly elevated. This I can consider as a warning, and I can say, you know what? Okay, maybe there is something here, maybe there's nothing here. I don't necessarily need to do anything today. Let's just keep that in mind. Let's revisit that again later. The red one, however, tells me that this is critical. Something might be going wrong here, and I better check. Upon clicking on this zone, I'll be guided to the detail view of it. And in here, we can see quite a lot, so I'll just guide you through the main components, meaning for the most part, what we can see here is yesterday's data, so from Monday, October 21st, where we see what was supplied to this zone. In this case, it's almost 300 cubic meters, out of which 264 roughly were attributed to consumption, meaning consumers have taken this water out of the system. This is accounted for. On the flip side, roughly 35 cubic meters during that day were unaccounted for. And now it's about finding out why. Is there something that I need to do as an operator? In order to determine this, I can then switch to what we call here the daily water metrics, which gives me a longer period just to see, okay, what's happened with regards to water supply, in this case, delivery, or consumption, and also the water losses. And we can see already, actually, it's rather stable. Okay, there seems to be a seasonal kind of jump up, and then it goes down again in both the delivery and the consumption. What I'm interested in are the water losses, and hence I'm ticking this box. And just for better visibility, I'll tick off the other boxes. And what we can see here is that water losses are rather stable. Sometimes, okay, they go up, they go down. Here we have stark rise and then fall. And then it's very stable again at about 27, 28 cubic meters. Before it dips down, it rises up to 44.2 cubic meters on Sunday, that is, and falls back to 35 cubic meters. Still, 35 cubic meters is something that is deemed not acceptable for this zone. So let's find out whether that's something that we need to do. In this case, 27 cubic meters a day would be acceptable. I can, just for sanity checking, turn on also the curve for the minimum night flow. That's what MNF stands for. And what I'll be greeted with then is the orange curve that tells me, you know what, honestly, yes, you might have an increase in water losses over the last 2 days, 3 days. The night flow, however, stayed unnervingly, just stayed even. Now, still, this doesn't quite to me explain why the water losses have increased. And here I can tick off this very last box, which tells me about data availability, the data situation in this case. And we can see, honestly, it's really good. That's one of the things that Torkel himself has been driving for quite some time. So we're above 95% data availability on the end consumer side. However, there is a slight dip for whatever reason on the 21st. And basically now I can say the minimum night flow has not increased. The data availability dropped a little bit. Hence, I can say most likely I can explain this increase in water losses simply by saying, okay, data situation might not have been perfect. Nothing for me to do right now, but something to just keep in mind again tomorrow to reinvestigate. And I can jump back to the dashboard and say, you know what, I've seen there's a red zone, there's a yellow zone, but I've determined at this very moment, there's nothing I need to do, and I can go about my day and focus on other things.